You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. Today on the podcast, I am delighted to welcome Christina Johns, VP of Operations at Hopeless Records. In this conversation, we talk about the recent Hopeless and Fat Records merger, what it is like to double a record label's catalog overnight, relationship building with bands, and then we dive into some propaganda talk. We go into the reissues process of how to clean everything in today's Empire's Tomorrow's Ashes, and we conclude with Christina's propaganda top 3 podium of songs. Just to remind you, Louis Posen, president of Hopeless Records, was on the podcast on February 27th, 2026, so check out that complimentary episode to this one as well. Thank you to Christina and Hopeless and Louis and everybody for chatting with me about the transition and the merger. Please enjoy my conversation with Christina Johns. Christina Johns, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Hi, happy to be here.
I am delighted that you're here. Just spend a moment and introduce yourself to the listeners of the podcast and propaganda fans out there. Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Christina. I work at Hopeless Records. I oversee our operations department, and I do all of our physical production, so vinyl, CDs, cassettes, whatever else, 7-inch. I've been there for a little over 8 years, but I also grew up on Fat Records, and now magically get to work on their whole catalog.
This has got to be quite a surreal experience for you. It's surreal for me doing a podcast where I've actually interacted with so many amazing artists and the members of the band that I love so much. Like, it's a weird feeling for me, and I love it. Is that kind of like that for you, where you're just like, wow, I really am so lucky to be doing this?
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. The first couple weeks where we were like really jumping in and talking to people, every day I would get looped in with like another one of my favorite bands. It was very crazy.
Amazing.
I'm having a great time. We just did this Nerf Herder record and I was obsessed with the self-titled record, which isn't even a Fat release, but we're doing this like acoustic one. So even like fun stuff wasn't even there before is now part of it. I'm having a good time.
Tell me what your thoughts are on this on the merger of Fat and Hopeless. How's it going from your perspective, like on the ground? Like what's going on over there that listeners need to know about?
I mean, we're trying really hard. I do think that, Fat has a very dedicated fan base and they're watching because they're wanting to see how we handle this and what happens. It's a little bit scary. But we are trying our best to do things the way that Fat has been and like keep the things that are important. And E and Bart and Pat are like very involved and they answer. I was just talking to Bart, like they answer questions all the time and tell us who to talk to about things and like how they did something before and what vinyl colors they've done. And they're just like really super helpful, which is nice. But we did basically double our catalog in a day. So it's hard. And because I do the production stuff, vinyl is such a big part of it. And so we're trying to bring back a lot of stuff and repress things and track down files and figure out what plants were used before and which version of the record is the right version to repress because there's multiples of things and it is super complicated. And like we care, so we want to do the right stuff and not bum anyone out.
What are you doing for like organization stuff? Like get nerdy with it. Are you doing like, do you have like a spreadsheet with like 50 tabs open on your computer like all the time? What's going on over there to help you stay sane and organized?
Yeah, so I do have a couple tabs. I actually hired a new production person to help me. She started in January because it was just me doing all of Hopeless and then doing all of Hopeless and Fat, which was not going to happen. So I have help now. Her name's Adriana. She's great. And so her and I are just tag teaming it. We have a list of titles from sales of like the focus ones, the biggest releases that have been out of stock that we should get back, stuff that has anniversaries this year, stuff that like has just been out for a while, things that people are asking about. Like we're just trying to prioritize the releases. And then there's also like new stuff that's popping up. And we're just kind of working our way down a very, very long list.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm very impressed with the recent Good Riddance record. It is probably my favorite record since the Dave Ron EP that came out in like 2000.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's great.
It's super good. I'm really happy to see the bands continuing to put stuff out, like the Strung Out reissue of
Exile and
Exile.
Oblivion, yeah. And the
My
Less Than
favorite.
Jake, Borders and Boundaries, that's one of my favorite records. I have a Less
Yeah,
Than Jake tattoo.
nice.
We did a call with them and they were like, "Oh, we're not sure if like people in the office are fans, but like telling us about themselves." And I was like, "Uh-huh."
Yeah. Like I'm a fan and I got it inked on me to prove it to you.
Yeah.
What are you what projects are you allowed to talk about projects that are like immediately in the works?
I don't know.
Okay, maybe we won't talk about that. Maybe we won't. But
Okay.
I've been really delighted with what I've been seeing so far. The Strung Out reissue was great. The new Good Riddance record is, in my opinion, their best since before they broke up. I'm liking it like more than anything they've put out since probably like the Dave Wagon Shoots years. The Bound record that came out in like 2003, I think. So
That's been a while.
yeah, really awesome. What is your relationship building like with all of these bands? Like, what are you doing on a week by week basis to kind of build these relationships with these bands that have been so established, some of which have been broken up for years too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so the way that Hopeless works, we all kind of handle our own departments, and so we do pass people around, so you don't only talk to one person and then they talk to everyone else. So I'll get looped into things. Sometimes sales will talk to the band first. We're trying to let everyone know if we're doing a repress that we're doing it and like what colors we're looking at if that matters to them. It's hard because you also just need to like move. But so we want the bands involved, obviously. So we have been reaching out, like those Propaganda represses. I emailed Chris all the colors to make sure he was cool with it. We asked if they wanted one for like shows or anything. So we're just trying to like make sure people know what's going on. They know who to talk to for what. They know what we're doing, so it's not like a surprise. Everyone's been really cool. We weren't really sure, how people would react because it's like you were on this label and now you're working with this label. And did you know? We don't really like we weren't a part of that kind of stuff, but everyone's been like really nice for the most part and like really excited about having like a team to talk to and like have nothing but great things to say about Fat and Bart and Pat and E and Mike and it's just been really cool.
And
It's a lot of stuff, but it's been like pretty fun for me.
I know that you're making all of your own new stuff for the bands. Like whenever you do represses, I'd imagine that Hopeless you're doing it like as Hopeless would do it, like with all the connections and that. Is that how it's going? Like are you
Kind of, it sort of depends. So, I have a list of this is gonna get so into
No,
it,
it's
but
fine, I want it.
okay. I have a list of what releases were pressed at what plants when Fat did it. And so if it's a plant that we want to work with, we are reaching out and doing the represses with them. And if it isn't, or it's a plant that doesn't have any openings or shut down, because that happens too, we're just tracking down files and moving them over to our preferred manufacturer and starting over, making new tests, and then moving forward.
Awesome. That's really cool. What is going on with the existing inventory that was at Fat's offices in San Francisco? Because I know you all are down in the LA area. So what's that like of getting the stuff from their
Yeah.
space to your space?
So they had everything in their warehouse, and we don't do like web store stuff from our warehouse. We really just do band or like ship to bands on tour. So we had them ship a ton of stuff to our web store in New York, who took over fatrec.com. And then they also sent us a bunch of stuff to our distros for us, and then shipped what was left to our office. So we just got a million pallets that we still have to go through. And a lot of it is stuff that like they had in the office that we would maybe just keep. And then some of it's stuff that we would send back out to stores or put online. Some of it's stuff that's not sold anymore. So we have to just kind of go through it, but we just had to help them get it out of their office. So we've inherited a lot of stock.
Where's your location in New York? I live in New York, in the state of, I live in Buffalo. Where's your,
Our
where is
web
that
store,
located?
they're in
Yeah.
Albany.
Oh, sweet. Very cool. Yeah, just a couple hours down the road from me. I had no idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, merch now. They've been
Awesome.
getting a lot of customer service emails.
Sweet. Okay, so a couple of the reissues that came right out of the gate whenever Hopeless started doing this, as you mentioned, the reissues that they that did for Today's Empire, Tomorrow's Ashes, and how to clean everything.
Yeah.
So what is that process like of like getting files, getting artwork, making sure that everything is like all the layout information is there? What's that process like?
So those specifically were set up at Pirates Press already. And I have used them before. And there's a guy who works there who actually used to work at Fat and did
Mm,
all their production. So he was like, oh, by the way, this has extra songs on the download card that aren't on the vinyl. Oh, and also it had this special sticker. And I was like, okay, great, good to know. And then he kind of just like helped me through it. And I picked the colors. So I hope you like the stripes.
yeah, it's really cool. What's interesting is that they had the 20th anniversary today's Empire, which did have those bonus tracks. So that was kind of an interesting approach as well. What is the band's involvement like whenever you're doing these reissues?
It really depends. I was sort of told which bands cared about being involved and which ones don't.
Hmm.
Some of them don't have any interest in the colors and they're just like do whatever. And then some of them want specific things. It really just depends. For the Propagandhi one, it seems like I could be wrong, but looking at stuff, it looks like Fat when they make like an extended version or deluxe or something, that then replaces the original version most of the time. And then that's like what they repress. That's kind of what I've been figuring out.
Hmm.
And so obviously we don't have to keep doing that. There's some that I'm like, I think people want the original. Let's switch it. But so we're trying to like figure out what's the right move because Hopeless doesn't really do a lot of like different versions of the same record and we don't have a lot of like things celebrating 20, 25, 30-year anniversaries, so it's pretty crazy.
Is the plan to continue doing the 25-year anniversary
Yeah, the foil.
repushes? Okay.
Yeah, that is like a thing that I want to keep doing.
Okay, very cool. I have several of those myself. I have some No Use and Good Riddance and Propagandy foil 25th anniversary presses. So, I am sort of the target demographic for some of those albums. So that's cool to hear that those are going to keep going. Okay, so let's get into Propagandy a little bit. Tell
Yeah.
me about your origin of being a fan of them. Take me back as far as you can to the very beginning of finding out about them and becoming interested in them.
Yeah, so I was trying to remember when I like first heard them, and I'm honestly not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I know when I was like 14, 15, I started finding out about, I feel like I heard Goldfinger.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is cool.
One
And
of
we
my
lived
earliest bands too.
yeah, we lived in like a really small town in New York, and it was just the radio, and there weren't a lot of like punks or even people who just didn't listen to whatever was on like the pop station. So it was really hard to find stuff. And then I think I heard Goldfinger, and I was like, this is interesting. And then I heard probably Blink 182 on K Rock or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of went down a rabbit hole and I found Less Than Jake. And then at some point, I just had like a list of bands that either bands I liked thanked in their like liner notes or someone who liked a band, similar band suggested to me. And there was no streaming because I'm old. And so I had a list of CDs and it would be like, hey, it's your birthday. What do you want? And I'd be like, Pennywise, like Full Circle or whatever. And then my mom or aunt or sister or whoever would get me this CD and then I'd listen to it and then I'd read who they thanked and then I'd look up those bands. And so I know NoFX was definitely like an early one, and I'm assuming I found Propagandhi through that.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
imagine so. I mean, Fat Mike talked about them relentlessly in interviews for many, many years as being
yeah,
one of the
about
most
them being
inspirational sounds.
the best punk band and like all kinds. I met him at Punk Rock Bowling a million years ago, and I was interning at Epitaph,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there with Sue, who was Brett's assistant and is now the president, and is also my very good friend. And she really wanted to meet Fat Mike, and she made me go with her. And she was like, "I'm Brett's assistant," and then we talked to him for a while in the lobby of a hotel, and he was talking about Propagandhi and how they have a new record, and he's pretty open about stuff, so I think I can say this.
Yeah.
He was saying how they're on the new record. They talk shit about him in one of the songs, and he was like, should I put it out? Should I not put it out? Like they're such an influential band, and we're like 22. We're like, what? And we were like, you should put it out. It's a Propagandhi record. That sounds really cool. And he was like, yeah, I will. I think I actually looked it up, and he's talked about it before. But we were just like, why is he telling us this? This is so crazy.
Yeah, I think that my impression of that situation is that it really like was a debacle for him. Like he was really confused about what to do, and it was a very interesting and deep story. Chris has talked about it on his
Yeah.
podcast.
Okay.
Mike has talked about it a little bit on Hairs, and like I had Jason from Western Addiction on the podcast a couple years ago, and he was talking about it because he worked at Fat and stuff, and it was a really it's all just a really interesting little bit of lore. They had some back and forth.
Yeah.
If you ever heard One Celled Creature off of a Wolves and Wolves Clothing, that No Effects record, you should go and check that out again if you haven't heard it in a while because it's kind of a
Yeah.
fun little back and forth.
I'll
Um,
read through those lyrics.
yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. Okay, so have you ever seen them live before, Propagandy?
Yeah. So I've seen them a bunch of times,
Mm.
but the first time was my first no adult road trip. I lived in Vegas, and me and a bunch of my friends drove to LA to see them with a veil at the Palace, which now is called something else, and I don't remember. But it was the Chase Empire Tomorrow's Ashes tour, and I bought a shirt, and I still have it, but it does not fit, and it is the like burning flag. And I just remember I lived with my mom. She did my laundry. She never once was like, "You have this shirt with a burning American flag on it." But yeah, so my first road trip without adults was to LA to see Propagandhi with a bunch of my friends. And then while we were there, we met a group of people from Vegas who recognized us from punk shows in Vegas.
Oh,
And
sweet.
we're like, "Wait, are you guys from Vegas?" And then they ended up being a bunch of my best friends, and we like have still been friends ever since. And a lot
Nice.
of them are very excited that I get to work on fat stuff now.
Oh yeah, I mean, that is you're talking about the humanitarian intervention tour is what that tour was called. I have a tour
Sure.
poster in my little memorabilia box right here from that tour. You probably also saw Fabulous Disaster that night open up as well. So I know way too many things about these tours over the years. It's embarrassing, also kind of awesome. Um, okay, so tell me some other shows you've seen like that stand out.
I saw them at Chain Reaction after I moved to LA, and it was like an underplay, and it was very rowdy and fun. I saw them at the Knitting Factory in LA. I saw them at, I'm trying to think, I've seen them a couple times. I saw them at the Echoplex. I have a friend who I suggested for the pod, Dave Clock,
Oh
who's an
yeah,
illustrator who loves them. And we went to one of the shows together, and it's really funny because I really like the early records, and he really likes the later records.
yeah,
So we're like there together, but into totally different songs, which is really fun, I think.
yeah. You know what's really funny about that? So when Lewis from Hopeless was here like a month or two ago, he was like, "Oh yeah, Christina." So now he tapped you, and now you're here, and then you just tapped
Happy
Dave.
day.
So now I got to get Dave. So Dave, you're next. I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Um, so that's great. So you have a long experience with them. You've been a fan for many years, and you're working with them now. It's very exciting. The reissues are very cool. I'm so excited that they are under such great care and that they're getting immediate attention. As a fan of this band, I love seeing that they're being given a lot of attention with regards to the label. I noticed that you did How to Clean Everything in Today's Empires. What are there any other plans in the works for Less Talk and Potemkin?
Yeah, so Let's Talk has an anniversary. So we
Now,
are talking about working, like we're working on that one right now. And then I know Potemkin City Limits is on the list, but I don't know. I'm not sure where it is.
nice. Well, Chris has been very jokingly public about the fact that Potemkin only turned a profit a couple of years ago. So, you know, I think that there's still some in stock too for Fat's web store for that. So that one they're in print. They're easy to get. They're available. I always am looking to see what's available and be like, hey, every record is in stock at Fat's website or every record's in stock at Epitaph's website. So I'm trying to tell people what I notice whenever I'm going down the rabbit hole of web stores and things like that. So I'm trying to help y'all sell some
Thank you.
records. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. So whenever I have guests here to do bonus episodes like this, one of my favorite things to do is to ask people to pick their propaganda podium of songs. And you sent me your podium, which I'm delighted. Can I say the songs?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just to kind of set the stage, we're going to chat about Showdown from How to Clean Everything. Let's Talk More Rock, the self-titled track from that record, and Back to the Motor League from Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes. Tell me a little bit about your process for making this list because I kind of put you through the ringer on this one.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted something from Shays Empires because that was the first time I saw them. It was on that tour. It was like I have very specific memories from that trip. It was really fun. It was my first road trip with friends. We listened to Propaganda like the whole way there. We stayed at this horrible hotel in Hollywood that my friend's mom booked for us, sight unseen. It was just near the venue. Should have never done that. But so I had to do that one. And
Mm-hmm.
then, like I said, I'm partial to the early records, so I thought it would just be fun to do one from each.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pick one with John K. Samson representation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nice.
then I wanted, I mean, lyrically, a lot of them are like important and talking about really meaningful things, but in like a very fun way. But Let's Talk More Rock, I feel like is one of the first ones that I heard when I was like really young of like, oh, this band's actually like saying real things. And that's interesting because
Mm-hmm.
that just like wasn't happening. And I think that that's why they're still so important now because a lot of it is sadly still stuff that's happening now and they're like just as meaningful as they were. Like we're seeing spikes on like older songs like the what's the fascist one? Really long
Oh
time.
yeah, Only Good Fascist is a very dead fascist.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That song's really happening right now because
That's awesome.
people are feeling it.
So you get to like actually look at the streaming data for what people are listening to from all of your bands. Like, is that's got to be pretty cool to like to be able to track that in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at it because it's not really part of my job, but we do talk about like when stuff's working and like, oh, this old song's popping off. We should look into like what's going on there. It's pretty easy on like Spotify's really open with their numbers. It's hard to track certain things, but
Do you ever know? This is a total side tangent, but when you sent me your three songs, I went into my Apple Music account and I looked at where the songs were ranked in the top songs rankings. And something that was interesting is that your first choice, Showdown, is ninth on Apple Music's top songs list. And Back to the Motor League, shockingly, is 15th. I could not believe it. So,
I I'm yeah, I thought that I looked on Spotify,
yeah,
and Back to the Motor League is like the most popular of the three I picked, and I was even like, should I do a different one? But I just really like the opening line a lot.
yeah. No, that's totally fine. I was shocked at how low Motor League was on that list. Okay, so let's go to Showdown. How to Clean Everything, 1993, first propaganda record. Fat Mike is obsessed with this record. He's talked about it so many times about how much he loves it. And tell me why you chose this song, Showdown GEP, from How to Clean instead of something else.
Yeah, so I was trying to not pick songs that you've probably talked about a million times because that's
Mm-hmm.
boring. And then I wanted something with John K. Samson, and I was debating Gifts and Anchorless on Let's Talk More Rock, but then I listened through this record again and remembered how much I love this song, and I really like how him and Chris go back and forth, which they don't really do a lot, I don't think.
No, never. This is it.
Yeah. And then I know it's like a mashup of two songs, but I don't really know a ton about that. I'm sure you do.
I know a little. So
Okay.
the GEP stands for Greenest Eyes Preamble because on John Sampson's solo cassette tape called Slips and Tangles that he did before he was in Propaganda, or maybe right when he was like early in Propaganda, like 91, 92, he did this cassette tape. And there's a song in there called Greenest Eyes, and which is all the stuff that he sings on this song is from that original version that he made. So it is a mashup of Chris and John. Um, and yeah, it's just a really unique song. I have talked trash about this song on the podcast in the past because like I felt like they were because there is also a version that Propaganda played live after John left the band with Todd, where it's just the Chris portion, and that
hmm
in and of itself is a standalone awesome tune as well. So they separately have existed with just Chris and just John, and then they also existed together. And it is so strange to me that there's three different versions of this one song that you can hear. Very surreal, but it's a very unique song in their catalog because the lyrics are not about the same thing. Chris is saying
Right.
about one thing, John's saying about something totally different. So it's a very bizarre tune to me, and I've softened on it over the years. But I think that when I started this podcast, I was like trying to be critical, and so I was like picking low hanging fruit of like, oh, this song doesn't work, because I felt like I had to be. But who, well, who am I kidding, right? It's a great tune, and it's very unique and special within their discography.
Yeah, I think the lyrics don't make a lot of sense when you're really listening, but musically, like as a song, I really like it, and I like them going back and forth with their like the two voices, and like I said, I wanted John on the in my
Yeah.
choices.
Speaking of John, um, are you also a Weaker Thans fan?
I am, yeah.
So
I
let's
feel
talk
like
about that for a second.
I definitely heard Propaganda first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had like I was saying, I sort of like found ska stuff and then I got into punk. And then after that I had like a very serious like indie phase. It was
Yeah.
really like Saddle Creek and Cursive and but so that was when I started to get really into Weaker Thans. And I knew that he was on the early records, and so I kind of like went back and listened.
What do you know about the Weaker Thans Subsidy slash Hopeless Years
Left and
records,
Leaving.
Fallow and Left and Leaving? Because I think that you guys did the reissue of Fallow from G7.
I
That
didn't even know that we had that one. We
I
had Left and Leaving. I know we don't anymore. I
okay.
did find a copy in the warehouse that I now own. But I don't really know a lot about it because that was a while before I started. I've heard nothing but good things, and I know that we probably wish we still had that record because it's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that Lewis mentioned that a little bit when I was talking to him, but he has collaborated with the guys from Propaganda for many years because G7 and Hopeless slash Subsidy were collaborating on doing some cross-border releases, including bringing Fallow and Left and Leaving to the U.S. So that's a pretty cool thing that ties the bands and the labels back many years at this point. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Weaker Thans record?
Oh, I was not prepared to talk about
I'm,
the Weaker Thans.
yeah, I mean, like, well, Left and Leaving is my easy number one for me personally. I mean,
Now
so
I'm
I'm going with the Hopeless Sub-City Left and Leaving as my favorite, no
Oh,
question.
I mean, I do really love Reconstruction Site
Hmm.
and Reunion Tour. I think Reconstruction Site is probably my favorite.
Nice, very good.
Yeah.
Well, I also wish that Hopeless still had that Left and Leaving record. What an amazing tune, an amazing record. I mean, all right. So, any other thoughts on Showdown for your Propaganda podium?
I don't think so.
Is that your third place song? If you had to place them in the
Out of these
rankings?
three,
Yeah.
um, maybe second or third, not
Okay,
first.
cool. Sweet, sweet. Okay, so let's talk about your second track. Let's Talk More Rock. The title track from the 30-year-old exactly in 25 days. This record will be 30 years old as well to the
So
day.
crazy.
Let's Talk More Rock. Tell me why you picked Let's Talk More Rock.
Okay. So, yeah, like I was saying, I feel like it was one of the first songs where I was like, oh, they're talking about real things and what is this? But it also, it's a very fun song. Like it sounds, oh, I mean, most of their songs do. But I was listening to just like a bunch of random stuff that was just silly and not really about real things. I was probably like 15, 14. And so hearing a song that like talked about real issues in a way that was easy to understand as a child brain
Hmm.
was like, oh wow, this is crazy. And it's also just a very good song. I don't know a lot about the lyric. Like I know that it's about, like if you support the band, then you're supporting the things that they care about. But I don't know like more to if like that story is real or any of
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's a really interesting tune, and I was actually listening to a 1995 Gilman live set last night on YouTube. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, you were.
yeah, one where Chris is very confrontational with the audience. It's a very notorious Gilman set where the band basically has like a nonstop half an hour argument between the band and the crowd. And this is one where Chris says he kind of just is like baiting the crowd a lot, but he kind of goes into the details of like if you support our band, then you're gay positive and things like that. And so this is one of those things where the band was really trying to distance themselves between the snowboard, skateboard culture at the time, of like the macho bro culture of the scene, and just really distance themselves from that aggressively and in a way
Yeah.
that could not be confused in any way. So, it's a pretty sweet song. I'll have to show you that set because it's essentially Chris and the crowd just yelling at each other for like half an hour straight between songs. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like the closing is so good that if you dance to this, you drink to me and my sexuality. It's like he's just straight up saying like, if you're into this, then you agree with everything I just said. Cool, right? And I think
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold and fantastic thing to do in 1996 because, like, I remember 1996 and it was just like extremely casual homophobia, just in casual conversation between friends, especially guys, where one of the worst things you could do was accuse one of your guy friends of being gay. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it was just that was just the time of that. And so for this to be the polar opposite, it really showed me as a young guy what could be different about my own behavior. So this is a super influential one for me as well because it just showed me a different path of what it meant to be a guy and to remove casual homophobia from my own vocabulary.
Yeah, and I told you I was torn between this song and Refusing to Be a Man, which is kind of about the same
Complimentary.
stuff. Yeah, because I was just like, they both really hit on stuff. And I did read about that one, that it was like John told him to read this book and it really inspired him. And that was where he came up with a lot of it. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was really cool. And like you said, what was it, 96? I
Hmm.
was 13, so I don't think I heard it in 96. I probably found it like a little bit after, but still really young. And it was just like really cool to hear someone so openly talk about that kind of stuff in the punk scene.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What a great tune. 30 years celebrating Less Talk More Rock. What a fantastic time. We're doing something very special for the podcast for the 30th anniversary of the release as well. So check the podcast on April 26th, and I think that you'll like what we got going on over here.
Okay.
Um, all right. So Christina brings us to our last tune, Back to the Motor League. Obviously, stone cold classic at this point. Is today's Empires your favorite propaganda record?
It's hard. I think it might be, but I How to Clean Everything is really maybe I think it's the first one I heard and it's just like really in there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Today's Empire Tomorrow's Ashes is very fun and it definitely like they started to change the sound a little bit and it got like more guitar and it's just louder and faster and um yeah, it's very fun. But back to the Motor League, what I like to party fucking hard is like the greatest opening line of any song ever, maybe.
Ever. Yeah. Yeah, there's a quote I really love from Brendan Kelly from the Lawrence Arms where he once said, there's two types of songwriters, those who wrote Back to the Motor League and those who did not.
Yeah. It's just such a good song.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on like the lyrics? You're very involved in the scene. You know, you work with a ton of different bands. This song is about the scene in a lot of ways. Any thoughts on the critiques of the scene or the lyrics in general that really jump out at you?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you tell me some more about the the song because I don't always dive deep into like what the lyrics mean unless they're really like punching you in the face. Um,
Yeah, it's
and so I don't really know what a lot of my favorite songs. I like when I was looking at what songs I wanted to do, I was realizing I don't know what anything's about really, unless it like just says it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there is, let's see, let me look at this really quick. Play acting anarchists, so people who would espouse certain values and then be completely faking it. But then there's also let's see, I'm looking at the lyrics right now. Now I'm drawing a blank like an idiot. This is what always happens to me. But I was talking to Adam from Story of the Year one time, and he was, Story of the Year is a super huge band. They've had like massive radio hits, and this song is kind of ripping on like that kind of scene stuff, where it's very kind of corporate, popular, and this song like mentions Korn and Eminem and Limp Bizkit and stuff like that. Um, and Adam, whenever he and I were chatting about this song, he's kind of talking about my band. It feels like in a way because he loves Propaganda, but this song is a way to critique the scene in a way. And like just the rock scene in general and success and popular music and it's just kind of a fun little tongue-in-cheek poking the face at some of that really corporate popular radio rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm into it.
It's very fun. It's very fun. Cool. Well, I love hearing about some of your adventures. Any other thoughts on today's Empires or Back to the Motor League that stand out to you?
I feel like it's such an important record. That one specifically, Chase Empires. And
Hmm.
like I was saying before, their lyrics just get more and more like topical, even though it's an old record. And I feel
Yeah.
like that one's just always been really important.
Yeah, this one for me was the one, right? I had Let's Talk More Rock and How to Clean Everything on CD before this, but we were like when we heard the Propaganda had a new record coming out, it kept on getting delayed over and over and over. Like there were recording issues, there were like injured, I think Jord was injured or something. And so there were recording delays and when they finally got done, some of the songs like leaked on LimeWire and stuff like that, in because it was late 2000, early 2001, and the first song I heard from this record was Albright Monument Baghdad, and then Bullshit Politicians, and then Back to the Motor League. So I was getting these leaks of these songs where I was just like completely floored.
Mind blown. Yeah.
Yeah. And like this is the one for me because I like heavy music a whole lot as well. And so this is the one that kind of met me where I was, where I wanted the speed, I wanted the aggression, I wanted the guitar solos, and this album delivered that in spades. So
And
this
it's
is the
still
one.
fun.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
today's Empire's Tomorrow's Ashes is one of the catchiest songs they've ever done.
I think it's so cool that they can make music that is like about real things and it's like loud and fast and in your face, but still having a great time.
Yeah. One of my hopes now that the band is working with Hopeless through this merger is that maybe you guys will bring them back. Bring them back to the home label. You never
Well,
know.
I mean, they just put out that record on Epitaph.
Yeah, yeah,
So
at peace.
we'll see.
Which is almost about to celebrate its year anniversary. It's been out for 11 months now, which is crazy to think about how fast that time has gone because it still feels brand new to me.
It's also really good. They're still putting out really good records.
They are absolutely killing it. Well, Christina, thank you so much for hanging and chatting about Propaganda and the Weaker Thans and Subcity and Hopeless and the Fat Merger. What a delight. What are you looking forward to in the coming months with regards to Hopeless and Fat and everything going on?
I think Lewis touched on it a little bit, but we're going to be doing some stuff for the 35th anniversary of Fat, which was technically last year. But there was a lot going on with the merger. So there's going to be some like events and a bunch of reissues and maybe some new releases that didn't exist before, some old stuff that's just never been pressed. Hopefully, a lot of really cool stuff. Nothing that I can really talk about yet, but keep an eye peeled.
Love it. Well, Christina Johns, Hopeless Records, VP of Operations, thank you so much for coming on, chatting with me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on Unscripted Moments.
Thanks.